Hello, hello. Just testing to make sure everybody can hear me. Um, okay. So hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening from wherever you're tuning in from the world. And welcome to the 8th International Workshop hosted by Mediate Guru, which will be conducted as part on a span of 3 days, starting from the 18th of June to the 20th of June. So before we begin with the webinar shortly, just a little bit about our organization. Mediate Guru is a social initiative led by members across the globe. The organization was established with the primary aim to bridge the gap between the general public and litigation in terms of spreading awareness about the availability of mediation as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. We're creating a social awareness campaign for showcasing mediation as part of the future, and having successfully conducted various international webinars promoting ADR and having reached more than 100 countries around the world with an international family growing each day, we strive to provide you with the best lectures, best academic webinars, true to the best speakers around the globe, in hopes of helping add value to your knowledge about how we go about implementing new forms of ADR mechanisms in today's world. Given this, it's with great pleasure that I introduce our esteemed speaker for the first session of the international workshop, Ms. Magdalena Łągiewska. She is an assistant professor of the University of Gdańsk and part of the Department of Public International Law. She's a research associate in the China Law and Development Project at the University of Oxford, also being part of the director of the Confucius Institute at the University of Gdańsk. She received a doctorate in law at the university in 2017 and a second doctorate at the East China University of Political Science and Law in Shanghai in 2020. In addition to her legal education, she completed a master's degree in international economic relations with a specialization in international finance and banking. And was granted a scholarship by the Shanghai Municipal People's Government to take part in the Shanghai Summer School of 2015, Belt and Road Countries Project, organized by the Shanghai International Studies University, and other scholarships from the China Youth University for Political Sciences in Beijing. And without further ado, I'd like to invite Ms. Magdalena to please come onto the stage, and the floor is all yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants of today's webinar and workshop. Thank you very much for your invitation to be here during the Mediate Guru workshop, and greetings from Poland, because I'm in Poland right now. So the best greetings from my country. First of all, I would like to ask you, as a participant of today's meeting, where are you from and how are you involved in international commercial arbitration? Are you already arbitrators or students? Do you have any practical experience on international commercial arbitration, or you just begin with your let's say, a professional path? Someone would like to share. What about you? Where are you in this? Anyone would like to share? You can simply turn on your microphone and tell us. It would be really nice. Anyone? A law student. Okay. Okay, so
excuse me, Magdalena. I've just been informed that they can't turn on their microphones throughout this presentation, so they'll just communication will just be via the chat function.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know that it's impossible and that everyone is mute. I'm sorry. Okay, so I will tell you my story to begin with, how it has happened that I'm involved in international commercial arbitration. So first of all, after my PhD studies in Poland, it was about Chinese law. I decided to go to China for my second PhD, and I found a very fantastic teacher, my professor, and after my supervisor, Professor Liu Xiaohong, who is the first Chinese in the international commercial court in Paris. And she's simply fantastic in arbitration. You know, she has a very specific way of speaking, and she's a very charismatic person. And for that reason, I simply decided when I was listening to her lectures that I thought that it was simply very interesting, and I decided to follow this path and to be much more involved in the international commercial arbitration. And this was my first step. Then I decided to write my second PhD in law about international commercial arbitration, but actually about the effectiveness of the arbitration agreement under Chinese and Polish law, and to make a comparative study. And finally, I had also the opportunity to go to Shanghai International Arbitration Center in Shanghai. So it means that I was inside in the Chinese International Commercial Court, and it was very good experience for me. I had such an opportunity to see how it works simply in a real life. So not only from books, but rather from professional experience. So actually, what I really recommend before we start this session on digitalization in international commercial arbitration, as I see that mostly we have some students aboard, I would like to recommend you to simply not only focus on this theory and rather to find opportunities to be directly involved in arbitration, and to start with some small steps, even have an internship in a law firm that is specialized in commercial arbitration, for instance, or to have another internship in some commercial courts. You will see how it works, because different story it's to read something in a book, and different story it's to participate in a real life and to be involved in a real session during the real proceedings in arbitration. So this is what I would like to start with, and I think that it's time to just look forward and to have some ideas how to make your path in this direction and succeed in the future, because it's a long journey and you cannot become an arbitrator in 1 year, but it needs some more, let's say, work, and a very hard work to do to achieve such a goal. But right now we will switch on to this session, to this workshop on digitalization, and I would like to make it in such a way that we have two different parts. The first one rather about some technical aspects about the digitalization, and the second about some practical aspects that can be very useful, especially in case of online dispute resolution that we face right now. So first of all, I'm really voice pausing. So do we have any technical problems with the internet, or it's only one case, or I hope that you hear me. Okay. So actually, we all know that along with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have to face new problems, but also challenges ahead. And in case of educational system, almost every country in the world has introduced what is known as e-learning to provide knowledge in a lockdown period. But the situation, it's pretty much more complicated in case of procedures and legal system that need to be adjusted to a new reality. And it's particularly significant to draw solutions from previous experiences in terms of the court's digitalization. So even if we go online, so we decide to have online dispute resolution, we have to profit from the previous experiences. And it's not like this that we in one day simply switched to online hearing, but we need more things to be well prepared I'm just okay. So I thought that it's to me that we have some technical problems, but it's not, because I simply I'm talking about on the same time I'm also reading the chat just to follow what's going on. And if you have any suggestion, or if you would like to ask, please feel free to write a question on chat, because I would like, if we don't have the opportunity to, I have the opportunity to hear you, I would like to that I can involve you just during this workshop, and it will be much more interesting that we have this kind of interaction and not only my speech. So as I said, we try to go into just to move to online dispute resolution, but we should just profit from the previous experiences. And it's not like this that in one day we are able to switch to virtual world in international commercial arbitration. But actually, what's worth adding that in case of arbitration, we have such an alternative dispute resolution mechanism that it's very flexible. So it means that in case of arbitration, we have a good tool to be adapted to online dispute resolution, because here, instead of ordinary court proceedings, we have the parties' autonomy. So this is the first feature of the arbitration, and also the parties' autonomy and the procedural flexibility in conducting the arbitration consists of the key factors why the parties favor arbitration over ordinary courts proceedings. And for that reason, it's much more interesting and it's easier also to use online dispute resolution rather than traditional court proceedings. And I don't know if you already know or not, because I don't know, we have some law students from the first year, so who just began their professional life. But you should know that we have institutional arbitration and also ad hoc arbitration. So especially in case of ad hoc arbitration, it's very important that we have such a solution that we can go online, because it's much more easy to everyone, and it simply gives us more opportunities to profit from this arbitration. And in this case, we have less restrictions, and it means that the arbitration is much more flexible. So it means that we can do, like we can choose freely, not only arbitrators, but also the place of arbitration, and we can decide whether it's online or not. And it's simply, it's a good situation, especially in some crisis times as we face right now. And very important thing that during the whole process and arbitration proceedings, we have oral arguments that shall be presented. Whether it concerns video conferencing, it's one option. It can be also in some hard copies if necessary, but we can use different tools in the whole process. So it depends in which stage we are and which kind of procedure we choose. But in a majority of cases, we have those disputes that are held and that involve some international parties. And especially in case of international parties, this online dispute resolution, it's a very good option, because as for instance, today, we are some participants from Africa, that this webinar is held by Mediate Guru in India. We have different people from different parts of the world, and I'm in Europe. So the same situation in online dispute resolution. So it means that due to digitalization of international commercial arbitration, we can simply shorten the way, and it means that we can simply see each other during just in a few seconds without any problems. And because I do my research on China, I would like to present a few recent developments and, let's say, achievements of Chinese courts to share with you how it works and what I think it's pretty interesting, and maybe those tools could be also applied in different jurisdictions and can be very useful in terms of international commercial arbitration. So first of all, I would like that you know that recently we have something that is called smart courts in China. So it's a new phenomenon that we have this online dispute resolution mechanism and online courts, and something that is related also to smart courts in China as a part of a global strategy for restructuring the judiciary. It considers generally typical traditional courts, but I think that it's also very interesting to adapt it and maybe to use it in international commercial arbitration. So for instance, here we have the promotion of information and communication technologies that is widely regarded as a system that is responsible for monitoring and assessing the operation of the courts. So for instance, here we have the whole process of digitalization of course that is related to the litigation, and we have online activities that involve not only the filling of the case, so the first initial stage that each party, like in each case we have to fill a case. Then we have a trial in online court and enforcement of a judgment. And as we all know that nowadays we have these new technologies, it's inevitable to use also big data. But one more thing, also cloud computing, because we all know that it's pretty useful that each of us has some data in a cloud stored, and then it means that each of us can simply use it and edit and has the access to those data in case you simply have the access to the internet. So there is no need to have more hard copies, but we simply can share it with anyone in the world by one click on your computer. And we use much more artificial intelligence, and this is, I think, the future of digitalization and international commercial arbitration. We have some steps already that were taken in case of traditional courts in China, but I think that it should go also in this direction in international commercial arbitration, because different international commercial courts use different platforms to communicate with the parties, but also to hold online hearings. And some of them are more convenient for the parties, some less, because each time we have to simply adapt to these new tools. But actually, I believe that it's very interesting, and that it's the whole process. And in the future, we will not use only traditional international commercial courts, but rather it will be a kind of a hybrid solution, so involving also online dispute resolution, because the COVID-19 pandemic simply speed up the whole process, but I'm sure that it will work like this, and we will have more artificial intelligence and also blockchain used in international commercial arbitration. So in case of China, we have very interesting solutions that were recently adopted. So, for instance, we could remember that China becomes a country that simply take care about the parties and try to make the whole process of interaction between the parties very convenient. And recently we have some how to say it, we have new technologies that are used, and for instance, we have some robots, and those robots are responsible to speed up the whole process of filling a case. So it means that we have we use the artificial intelligence that simply help us, and instead of a natural human being, we have someone. We simply have a robot that knows how to help parties to answer the most important questions that concerns how to file a case, and how to make it more convenient. And for us, especially in Europe, I don't know any of the courts that use as much artificial intelligence and robots. But I think that it simply shows the new trends, and also it shows that we'll go in this direction. And online courts are remarkably effective because parties also know that they don't waste too much time on going to the court, but they simply profit from this litigation platform, and due to this internet tools, they have the opportunity to make everything from home. And for instance, we have something that is called a micro mobile court in China. That is an additional tool. And I don't know if you heard any time about WeChat in China. So it's an app, something like Messenger or WhatsApp. And in this app, you have a special additional tool that you can simply guarantee access to justice. So even if someone doesn't have a computer, he or she can simply have the access to justice. So it means that the whole process and the way to go to court, it's a very, very short. And for that reason, I believe that in case of international commercial arbitration, we also will adapt some of these solutions and make it more flexible. And what is very interesting that we use some digital tools recently in online hearings, but the question is whether we can use and witness via Skype or similar technical programs some people that are involved in arbitration, and what about the proceedings that should be mandatorily public? In some jurisdictions, we have such a problem that it should be mandatorily public, and there is no other option. And how to make it in such a way flexible to anyone that we can profit all from this, and how to make it very convenient to all the parties. I remember that I also was. In some case involved in this online process, because we all use some digital tools, and we all know that some of them are much interesting and much more convenient, and the others are not. But in which direction does it go? We have also this artificial intelligent judges who will adjudicate in international commercial arbitration or not. This is a question that we will have to face, and how to make it in a very good way, and how to, on the one hand, in case of digitalization of international commercial arbitration, we have very good tools to profit from the internet, and we don't waste our time on traveling to different courts. But on the other hand, we have also some let's say threats that we should face. For instance, how to guarantee the good protection of the data that are submitted, how to file a case properly. how to collect all the e-evidences, which of the platform is the most appropriate in each case. So here we have the international law that should apply, because we have different jurisdictions, different way of protecting data, for instance. And I think that we will have to face new problems and challenges ahead. But actually, I cannot imagine that we simply come back to a traditional court litigation. So it was just a few words about something that you already know, and that concerns some recent developments. But one more thing, and a second part that I would like to that you are aware, simply conscious about one more thing. Each arbitration proceedings, whether it's traditional or not, whether if we talk about traditional hearing or online hearing, we should think about the art of persuasion. So the way you speak and how to use the power and the persuasion in online dispute resolution, because it depends who is the arbitrator, but also it depends on your professional skills, how to convince somebody that you are right, how to persuade somebody that you are right. And it's very important, and it concerns all the professions, in all the law professions, actually, because each time that we have an interaction with the others, it means that we should be very aware how to speak. And especially in case of online dispute resolution, it's very important that all our gestures are much more visible on our computer rather than in a normal life. Because if we all sit like this, and I move even like this, in a normal life, you will not pay attention to this because it's natural. But when we have this online communication, it seems to be very, how to say, you feel like in a theater, like watching a movie. And if you try and you participate in online dispute resolution with someone, with a professional just in front of you, you should be very conscious about your body language. Here, it's very important. And very often we do not pay too much attention to this because we get used to be natural in our life. But the way how you speak, it's also a very persuasive tool. And no matter if you go to and you will work in the future in arbitration or maybe in mediation, negotiation, please pay attention to the way how you speak, because some rhetorics, when to make a pause, how to ask a question, if to make such a gesture or not, how to make a different, if you have your hands open or not, if you make like this to be more focused on the way how you speak. If you have eye contact, it's much more difficult during the online hearing, because I just look on my screen, but I should look on the camera that you have directly online contact with myself, but it's very difficult to have the same interaction with someone who is just who is just in front of you. It's much easier to persuade somebody about your arguments while you are talking in a real life, and to achieve the same goal in online dispute resolution needs more conscious about your body language, about your gesture, about rhetorics, and also heuristics. And that's what I would like to spend a few minutes, because I don't know if you had already some workshops maybe on rhetorics and heuristic. I remember the first time I was involved in such a such a workshop in my life. And I remember something that I strongly recommend to each of us. So it was in Warsaw, in capital of my my country, and I was simply involved in one workshop how to make a public presentation. But it's also concerned each presentation and the same international commercial arbitration and this kind of dispute resolution. If you have such an opportunity, please simply engage your friend and take a simple phone, it can be a simple phone, and register how someone is speaking to you. Because, you know, if you see even once in a short film, a short video with you, you will see how it's visible on a video, each of our movement, each of our gesture, our mimics, if we smile or not, if we tick with our head or not. And you will see that it has a very important impact, how people see you and how people treat you. And in case of online dispute resolution, we very often focus only on this technical aspects about different platforms, how to collect e-evidences, what are technical tools that we use, but we do not pay too much attention to the verbal persuasion and to the way of communication. So first of all, it is a small task for you. I highly recommend it to everyone that you involve someone just to register, to make a short video, to ask you a few questions, and you will see what kind of problems you have in this kind of communication. This is the first thing. The second, that as we have arbitration or mediation or even negotiation, because you should know that in China we have very often something that is called ARP-MET, so arbitration that is also connected to mediation. So it means that the arbitrator can be on the same time arbitrator, but if he or she sees that there is the opportunity to achieve a consensus between the parties, it means that the arbitrator should also try to convince the party to mediate. And if they have a mediation agreement, it means that this mediation agreement is simply involved and it's binding, and then we finish the arbitration proceedings. But so it means that in China we have an arbitrator who is very flexible and should see how is the situation between the party and should read people. So it means should know whether those people already would like to achieve a consensus or not. But in case of persuasion in online dispute resolution, I would like to just highlight a few things. First of all, role in face-to-face mediation. So very often we have a mediator, for instance, who is a trained specialist. Maybe it's not a lawyer, but someone who has a specific principles that are materialized in concrete strategies, and he or she knows how to conduct this mediation. As I said, face-to-face mediation or arbitration that is held online, it's possible, but it's much more difficult, especially because you don't look at your eyes directly. You simply look at your screen, and it means that this interaction, it's not the same. This is the first thing. The second, it's much more difficult to manage the role, especially in we have some interactions between the people. So today we don't have such an opportunity to interact, and you cannot switch on your microphones. But I believe that one day we meet and we can make such a workshop that I ask you some question and you reply, and you will see, and I'm sure that you already had such problems during different seminars, that if 2 or 3 people normally talk together at the same time simultaneously, we understand each other. But if it goes online, it's impossible, you know, it's a totally disaster that we don't know what's going on. And especially in case of arbitration, when we have a professional meeting, of course, a business code rather than a very professional, very strict, dress. But it means that we should also pay very much attention to the way how we interact. And I'm sure that you will profit from different public presentation, and you will see how to do it properly. But actually, please be aware of your body, how to move it properly. If you how you talk, if it's good to persuade somebody about you are right or not, because otherwise you will never achieve your goal. And that's the small thing to do, and a small homework for you to make an interview with your friend and to see how you behave in front of the camera. And you will see how many problems you will face. And actually, it's very, very important to know that we have such a problem. And be aware and conscious that in each case, when we have a judge, no matter if that judge is called a simple judge or an arbitrator, or maybe it's a mediator or someone who makes some negotiation, that's the person who is involved and who decides who is right and how to conduct the whole process. In a real life, it's easy because we see someone's face. We know if it's we see some emotions. During the online dispute resolution, it's more convenient, but it's at the same time more difficult to make it properly. And I really regret that we cannot make a short interaction here, but actually I'm sure that it's a very important to use a proper word, but also to stop for a while. Sometimes to convince somebody, it's very important to make such a good story that someone would like to hear that story, because to be a lawyer, we very often use some articles, we refer to different regulations, and it's simply boring after some time, especially if we don't see the people, but we are online in front of our computers at our homes. Very often, if we can switch off our cameras, we can do whatever we wish. And in this kind of situation, even today, I don't know if you are listening to me or maybe you are watching your phones, playing some games. I don't know, maybe, who knows? But actually, I do believe and I hope that you're here with me and that you listen. And it's very difficult to convince somebody that you don't waste your time, but simply that you can profit from it. And even if we have this online dispute resolution, this new tools and new technologies, we should also learn step by step how to profit as much as we can from it, because we have the internet, but it's not enough. All these digital tools, it's not enough. We are still human being with some emotions, with our way of speaking, with our way of persuasion. It's not only about your speech, but how your speech can influence somebody's opinion and how you can change someone's view by using proper words. And I'm sure that you will achieve your goals. And I really cross my fingers for your career in international commercial arbitration. But you should know that the COVID-19 pandemic simply speed up the whole process, but we already were in online dispute resolution. We should learn much more how to interfere, how to make a good connection, interaction, and how to profit from these new technologies. What if we have a robot arbitrator? How to talk with a robot, because it can happen in the future. What if we have artificial intelligence that is simply involved in our online hearing. How to convince such a person? So right now we are all human beings, and it's pretty nice, but we should take care, and we should also know how to make profit from our emotions, from how we speak, how we convince, how we persuade, how we tell our story, how we use our arguments. And I'm sure that you will achieve such a goal, but be aware about the rhetoric. Whether it's a question that you know the answer, but sometimes it's necessary to ask such a question just to attract someone's attention, especially if you see, okay, the arbitrator right now, it's just maybe not listening too carefully what I'm talking about, but it's certainly very important. So maybe you should ask a rhetoric question in such a case. Also in online dispute resolution, because it means that you attract again someone's attention, and you have much more power over what's going on in these proceedings. This is the first thing. The second that I would like to highlight, it's also about the heuristic. About the heuristic, so also about your body language. Be sure how you use your body, how you make some gesture, how you use your mimics, if you have the eye contact or not. And even for a while, try to look only on your camera, just speaking, and you will see how it's difficult. When you don't see someone's face, when you are not aware if someone is smiling or not, if someone is listening to you or not, if that person is aware of what you are talking or not. We only see some profits from online dispute resolution. We pay attention to this digitalization, new platforms, new technologies, evidences, some data, cloud, but we are not aware how it's difficult to simply say and behave in the same way as we behave in a normal life, just in front of your computer. I'm just speaking for 2 minutes directly to my camera, but I can see whether a person is smiling or not. I don't know what is your emotion on a face. I have no idea. And try even once how it's difficult if you don't know if you go in the right direction or not, and just have it just here, just how to persuade somebody if you don't know what he or she is thinking about right now. And you will see that it's very, very difficult. Right now, I just see on my on the moderator of today's meeting, and if I see that he's smiling or just doing like this, I know, okay, he's listening to me. But otherwise, I have no idea if you are here or not. And please, even once, try to do like I did for 2 minutes, directly speaking to the camera, and you see how it's difficult to persuade somebody about your arguments. So thank you very much. If you have any question, you can always ask me like today during this session. But I'm also open, and if you would like to ask me about something, or you can always send me a message. This is my email address, and I would be very, very happy if I can share with you my experience, because I know that each of us learns every day, and it's very important to share our experience, professional experience, and to profit from it. And actually right now we have a very good time due to online teaching and the internet. Can you imagine a world without the internet? It would be very difficult, I think. And this COVID-19 pandemic simply gave us new opportunities. And I'm very happy to be here today with you, and very the best greetings from Poland to all the participants on today's meeting. So I'm very happy that you are here with me, and in case of any questions, feel free to ask me.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Magdalena. It was a very, very insightful presentation. Hopefully my body language as a moderator was as to the standards as to how you described it during your presentation. But now we will open up questions to the floor. We have had some questions come true during your presentation, so I'm start listing them out, and you can answer as we go along. So the first question that we've had come true by Philip Zulu. Would you say that online litigation is generally effective, or is it only effective to technologically advanced states and not other states that have low levels of advancement in technology?
I think that it's a very effective way to solve disputes like online litigation, but we should simply learn how to conduct the whole proceedings, because nowadays we are like a little kid in a kindergarten, you know. We simply learn step by step how to profit as much as we can from this online dispute resolution, because we only and very often just pay attention to the digitalization. So we pay attention to this new technology, some new platforms that appears, but we don't pay too much attention to something that is the most important in all litigation. So it means about a human being, because it's someone's life. We should be aware of it. And very often during this online dispute resolution, we are too much stressed about whether my internet will be fine. Will I have the internet connection? Will we have any technical problems? Will somebody hear me or not? And we don't care too much about the arguments, rather about technical features of our proceedings. And I think that it's not really good. It can be effective, but it depends on our way, how we interact and how we use only these new technologies as a tool. It shouldn't be the final goal, but rather a tool to achieve a goal, and to try to make it would be very difficult. But I think that if we have this kind of workshops and we are aware how to conduct this online hearing, we can achieve a very good results. But it depends on our behavior, you know, how we conduct everything as a human being. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Magdalena. The second question that we have had come true is, excuse me, sorry. Will it be advantageous on the part of an aspiring arbitrator to learn and understand the basics of technology in this modern day and era?
I think that we'll have much more international arbitrator who can simply share their experience how to conduct this online hearing. But actually, recently, I think that we have too many workshops on these technical aspects rather than on human being. Really, we are still human beings, simply using new technologies, but we forget about this. We take care about artificial intelligence. I know one person in my personal life, an international arbitrator, who is also of Polish nationality. That person also just tried to persuade me how to behave, and he has a very charismatic, he's a very charismatic person. You know, when you listen to him, he knows when to stop, how to make a joke. Even in this kind of webinars, you should know how to attract someone's attention. And I know one person from Poland who is a perfect match and answer to this question, how to do it properly. His name is Piotr Nowaczyk, and he had almost more than 300 arbitration proceedings worldwide. So he's appointed as an arbitrator in different jurisdictions. And actually, he's a person who is my mentor, and who's a person who I follow his advices, because I know that he's already a very experienced arbitrator, and he knows how to teach. He's like a master who has his own students, and that's really good. And I also think that we should have more workshops with those masters who simply share their knowledge, experience, and give some good advices to students who simply start their professional life in arbitration.
Okay, thank you very much. And that answers a really good segue into this next question that we have. It's a little bit more of a career-centric question that we've had come through. Someone has asked, how can we become a good international commercial arbitrator and ODR specialist? Which skills are required to become a great ADR specialist, in today's day and age?
Generally, the first thing, you should be very well determined about your career and your professional path. If you decide, I think that you can achieve any of your goal in your life. But what are the skills? First of all, you should start your professional career in arbitration. So, for instance, to become a professor of law, that is specialized in international commercial arbitration. You should also have your some professional experience in law firms, or to participate in some internships. For instance, as I had in SHIAC, so International Commercial Court in Shanghai, that was simply dedicated to help this kind of disputes. Then you see how it looks from inside. Then you should simply write a lot of articles on international commercial arbitration to be well-known person in this field, because you can be a really good expert, but if no one knows you, it means that you will not be an arbitrator internationally recognized, because you should be very well focused and specialized in a branch of law. And for instance, you can choose one branch of law and simply intellectual property rights, and develop your knowledge. You should write a lot of articles, participate in some international conferences, and if you are a professor appointed to different international arbitration commissions, then you will achieve your goal. But if you are simply a perfect person, reading a lot of books, but sitting at your home too shy and simply not too much communicative, so if you don't have such a skill to have a good communication with people, and you don't know how to attract someone's attention, if you don't have charisma in a way how you speak, you will never be a good arbitrator. It means that some of those skills you can learn, some of those skills you simply have. The way how you speak, but also the way how you interact, how you make some presentation. If you know how to conduct, and if you know how to read someone's emotion, you also need to be a good psychologist, because each proceedings needs a good each proceedings needs to know the people's emotion, but also you should know how to do it very properly, because some people know how to lie, and you should know if that person lies or not, how to read. So only legal background, it's not enough. I think that if you want to be a good judge, simply good lawyer, a good arbitrator, you should broaden your knowledge as much as you can. And it's not only about the legal background, but rather to make a puzzle, like to make a good combination of all these skills that taken together make you a perfect international arbitrator.
All right. So on that topic of skills, because you talk about how in China it's been so advanced, they've implemented AI to such an extent that they've automated a lot of the arbitration processes. Would you say that arbitrators, jurists, and lawyers moving forward would be obligated to know coding and programming skills to be relevant and keep up with the speed of automation in the coming years?
Like recently in China, we have this process of digitalization, but rather in traditional court. So we have some artificial intelligence, some robots. But I think that it will also involve international commercial arbitration. Of course, some of these skills, it means how to use computer. It's something that each of us know how to use. But probably, I also believe that we'll have more advanced workshops and also webinars and some projects concerning more technical features and how to conduct this online dispute resolution, because it's impossible to learn everything from the beginning. So probably we will go in this direction, and that's what I think. In China, it's a very a society that really likes to use different apps, and for them, new technologies, it's like every day, it's their life. When I came back after 3 years in China to Poland, and I realized that we are very traditional in almost all aspects of our life, that we don't use as much phones, for instance, that we don't pay too much, like with your card in the phone. We don't use Alipay or WeChat Pay, but simply cash. It means that those societies simply get used to these new technologies and make profit from it each day, and it's much more easy for them to go to online dispute resolution rather than to traditional one. Can you imagine? I remember, because I made also some research on Chinese family law. Can you imagine a couple that would like to divorce, and after a few years they were living in different cities in China with such a big territory? And can you imagine such a situation that they were for a few years separated, almost to 2,000 kilometers, and the Chinese court decided to halt all the proceedings. It was an online dispute resolution, traditional court by WeChat, something that is similar to WhatsApp or Messenger, and they simply checked whether that person it's an identity card or not. If that person, it's simply that person that we have the proceedings, and the court decided to make decide about the divorce and make a judgment on such a situation. So in China, those steps are very, like the society also agrees to go in this direction, and for that reason we also have such good results of this digitalization process. But the problem concerns how to make it properly and more effective. I believe that it can be very effective tool, but it also involves our personal features and our way how to attract this attention during the whole session online, because it's much more difficult to speak if you don't see someone's face, if you don't see someone's interaction. It's really difficult. I teach international law at the university, and very often I don't see my student because they turn off their camera. And even today we have 130 participants over during session, and I didn't have the opportunity to see them, to know how they interact. I didn't have the opportunity to hear them, listen what they would like to share with me. So that's the problem actually. And in China, with these new technologies, but also the ability of the society to adapt to new technologies, it's much easier. And even the senior, the person like 70 years old. In China, they use new technologies. They have smartphones and they know how to profit from it. That's the difference between us and different cultures. And here, it would be much more difficult about the culture difference. And also one more thing, how to conduct it properly with all these time differences, because even today we have some people who, I should say, good morning, some good afternoon, and some good evening, and we cannot manage this. It's 2:30 p.m. in Poland, but I'm sure that it's almost 6 p.m. in India, and so we have different time zones. And sometimes we have a chat with someone during the night. Sometimes it's morning and someone woke up. So that's also a challenge, how to make it properly and how to attract all these people that are involved in online proceedings. So there are some benefits, but also some consent. I think that we'll have a hybrid a hybrid solution that will be adapted in future international commercial arbitration proceedings, because we all need right now this personal contact. And I'm sure that if we had the opportunity to see each other in a normal workshop, that we can interact, we can smile, we can share our opinions simultaneously, we will all would like to profit from it. But some of us would say, I don't want to waste my time. It takes 2 hours to go to that location. No, I would like to just turn on my computer and I'm here. But mostly we are still human beings, and we cannot simply do everything online. Of course, it's a good idea to have online dispute resolution, but we should learn as much as we can. And right now, it's a good time to profit from it.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Magdalena, for the nuanced distinction. It is in fact 8:30 where I am, and I have to grab dinner. Very, very hungry. But that concludes our session. Thank you so much to Ms. Magdalena for the interactive presentation. I'm sure all our participants found the session very, very knowledgeable. Before we conclude today's session, I'd just like to take the opportunity to introduce the International Arbitration Moot Competition that Mediate Guru is organizing. The competition starts in September, and registration is currently open for arbitration enthusiasts from all over the world. It'll be a landmark opportunity for you to gain some, practical experience into how an arbitration takes place. More information can be found on our website at www.mediateguru.com. On extensive demand from our participants, Mediate Guru has also launched a 40-hour mediation training program provided to mediation enthusiasts by Ms. Kathleen Ruane-Leedy, and an early bird scholarship will be available until the 31st of July. So don't miss out on that opportunity. On a final note, I'd like to request that everybody please fill up their feedback forms before you leave in order to receive your certificates. And if you don't want to miss any updates, please follow us on our social media. And with that being said, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Ms. Magdalena, and I hope to see you all on a future occasion. Thank you.
Thank you very much once more to Mediate Guru for such an opportunity to be in India. And thank you very much to all participants of today's webinar and this workshop session. So best greetings from Poland, and see you again in international commercial arbitration. I'm sure that we'll see you again. All the best.